the street begging for food. Some of us who have the chance to get benefit of this freedom, they are not multimillionaire. And they don't even want to roll the window down when the children come and knock at the car, give me something little. They ignore them. These are the children of your colleagues. Without them, you will not have this V8. Those are the things which make me to wake up in the morning every day to look for opportunity to talk about South Sudan. And those are the things which I think we must not regret.
Sounds of the Week on iRadio, your eye on South Sudan. Live from Juba, on air and online.
This is iRadio News.
Hello, this is iRadio News. First, here are the headlines. More than 700 civilians were killed, 149 abducted, and 40 subjected to conflict-related sexual violence in South Sudan between January and March 2025, the highest recorded toll in any 3 months since 2020, according to a report from the United Nations Mission in South Sudan. The South Sudan Revenue Authority has begun zoning Juba City into 10 areas for a new taxpayer registration campaign aimed at boosting revenue collection and improving tax compliance. And South Sudan's former ambassador to the People's Republic of China, John Andruga, is urging the liberators to support the families of their colleagues who died during South Sudan's independence. This is stories and more coming to you in this news bulletin with me, Lasuba Memo. And now the news in detail. More than 700 civilians were killed, 149 abducted, and 40 subjected to conflict-related sexual violence in South Sudan between January and March 2025, the highest recorded toll in any 3 months since 2020, according to a new report from the United Nations Mission in South Sudan. In its quarterly human rights reports, UNMISS warns that violence against civilians in the country is escalating to record levels. The report documents an 86% increase in total victims, with a 110% increase in civilians killed and a 94% rise in those injured compared to the figures reported in December 2024. Abductions increased from 129 to 149 cases, while conflict-related sexual violence incidents rose from 35 to 40. Warabi State recorded the highest number of civilians casualties, with 428 deaths and 298 injuries, followed by Central Equatoria, which saw a 260% increase in victims and the highest number of abductions. The number of child victims also surged from 114 to 171. UNMISS noted that women and girls remain disproportionately affected by sexual and gender-based violence, accounting for 98% of documented sexual-related violence. As in previous reports, most of the violence was attributed to community-based militias or civil defense groups. Unidentified opportunistic armed elements were responsible for 22%, while conventional parties to the armed conflict and other armed groups accounted for 15% of victims, an increase of 27%. UNMISS emphasized that the escalation in armed confrontations involving these actors have severely undermined civilian protections and resulted in the widespread violations of human rights and international humanitarian law. Reacting to the findings, Guang Kong, Deputy Special Representative of the UN Secretary General, stated, and I quote, "It is the primary responsibility of the government to protect civilians and prevent conflicts which continue to cause immense harm to communities across the country." Kong called for concerted collective efforts at the national, state and local levels to address the underlying causes and drivers of these violations. He also stressed the need to facilitate the resolution of grievances through dialogue and hold perpetrators accountable to end the deadly cycle of violence. The South Sudan Revenue Authority has begun zoning Juba City into 10 areas for a new taxpayer registration campaign aimed at boosting revenue collection and improving tax compliance. According to Simon Akwaiteng, the Commissioner General of the Revenue Authority, the exercise involves door-to-door registration of all businesses, service providers and self-employed individuals across the capital. In a press release issued on Tuesday, Akwe said the process is free of charge and no one is allowed to demand payment during the registration. He said anyone found impersonating South Sudan Revenue Authority officials or collecting money will be prosecuted. The authority said the goal is to build a complete and updated database of taxpayers, support fair taxation and strengthen service delivery in South Sudan. He spoke in a press conference yesterday.
Revenue Authority hereby inform the public, the business community, and all the stakeholders that it has officially commenced the zoning and registration of taxpayers in Juba as part of the ongoing efforts to enhance domestic revenue mobilizations and taxpayer compliance. This exercise involves dividing Juba City into 10 operational zones, where SRRA registration of officials will carry out 3 door-to-door taxpayer registrations of all businesses.
The South Sudan Revenue Authority is urging all business operators in both the formal and informal sectors to cooperate with the registration teams and provide accurate information. The public is also advised not to allow anyone into their premises unless they present a valid Revenue Authority identification card clearly showing the authority's official logo. It says that for concerns or to report suspicious activity, residents are encouraged to contact the nearest Revenue Authority office. Juba City has been reorganized into 10 zones under a new zoning plan. Each zone encompasses specific neighborhoods such as Juba Town in Zone 1, Munuki in Zone 4, and Gudele in Zone 6. Zone 8 is designated for UN and diplomatic missions, while Zones 9 and 10 include areas like Gure, Jebel Tinka, and Luri. This is iRadio News. South Sudan's former ambassador to the People's Republic of China, John Androga, is urging the liberators to support the families of their colleagues who died during South Sudan's independence. Ambassador John Androga's reflection came as the hard-won country is anticipating to witness its 14th independence anniversary. According to Androga, some multi-millionaires pay less attention on supporting the children, women and orphans of their colleagues, but rather live a luxurious life in the expenses of the poor. Ambassador Androga spoke to iRadio in an exclusive interview yesterday.
Building this country is going to be by you, the people of South Sudan. Don't expect somebody from outside to come and build this country. That was the message President Salva Kiir delivered after result was announced, 2011. That message is still what makes me to wake up in the morning to continue to talk about South Sudan. Because what do we tell the people? We have colleagues who have not seen the day of referendum, who did not vote. We have colleagues who has voted, but they did not see the raising of the flag. What do you tell them? The millions of soldiers who perished in the course of this country. What do you tell them? They left children who are orphaned. They left white women who are widow. Now they are moving on the street, begging for food. Some of us who have the chance to get benefit of this freedom, they are not multimillionaire. And they don't even want to roll the window down when the children come and knock at the car, give me something little. They ignore them. These are the children of your colleagues. Without them, you will not have this V8. Those are the things which make me to wake up in the morning every day to look for opportunity to talk about South Sudan. And those are the things which I think we must not regret.
Western Equatorial States acting governors reminded the state lawmakers of their constitutional mandate to summon ministers and political leaders for questioning and accountability. Speaking at the reopening of the State Assembly in Yambio on Tuesday, Daniel Badagbu called for mutual respect between the executive and the legislature, stressing the role of checks and balances in promoting good governance. He reiterated his commitment to transparency and accountability, stating that he is ready to lead by example and respond whenever called upon by the Assembly.
Once somebody is called, a minister is called to the Assembly, the nomenclature, the name the terminology used is the assembly will summon you. It means calling you to appear before the parliament. It does not mean taking you to court. So the one in the court is a different thing. So that let's know it today. Once a minister is summoned, you must appear exactly and answer what you have been called for. Because these are lawmakers. They must be respected. And the laws also within the August House must also be respected. So that this one will bring mutual understanding among ourselves. So this issue of war, we are executive, we are this one, no. Even me, don't hesitate to come on me, I'm ready to appear. You even start with me. Because if I start coming to appear, we will know who will not come to appear. Also, we can also ask the speaker also to come to brief us there.
Mr. Bodagbu also suggested that the Speaker of the Assembly could occasionally brief the executive branch to enhance collaboration and understanding between the two arms of government. Before the international news, the team leader of the Girls Education South Sudan program, Daniel Geseka, has urged teachers to uphold integrity and avoid misusing cash transfers intended to support girls and children with disabilities in staying in school. Speaking on iRadio's Don't Show, Geseka emphasized that the funds are specifically for eligible learners who face significant challenges accessing education. He commended teachers who follow proper standards but warned against those manipulating the system for personal gain.
It's not about even the issue of the money. As a school act as the foundation in terms of instilling good values to our children. You can imagine if you went and picked a learner who is in primary 5 and tell them, now come today, you want to be in primary 7 so that you can get a cash transfer. What are you telling this learner? You are telling them, it's okay in life to cheat. So schools cannot act. And I know that we have teachers who have ethical values and all, but you also have those who look at the money and they forget on the purpose why we have that school. In terms of the school is to instill values. So tomorrow we will come and start saying, we are fighting corruption and all that. But this is being trained in school. So this is part of why, for example, we are here to just encourage those teachers who stand for the values of integrity. That's the way to go. But also discourage from this element of trying to cheat the system, looking at a very short-term and a temporary gain, but ruining the life of this learner by introducing them to the vices which will not help them in the society.
Since 2014, the cash transfers have addressed economic and social barriers such as poverty and early or forced marriage that prevents girls from completing their education. To date, over 1 million girls have benefited from these direct payments. In 2024, boys with disabilities also began receiving support under the program. Geseka reiterated that GES maintains a zero-tolerance policy toward any form of misappropriation. Kashwal Mabil Piok and the Secretary at the Ministry of General Education and Instruction echoed this message, saying the shared responsibility of education authorities at all levels to ensure the program reaches the intended learners.
The most important thing here is that all the stakeholders are sensitized about their responsibility when it comes to the implementation of this program. I understand the situation on the ground, but then they have a responsibility to ensure that the resources are basically given to the eligible learners who are in dire need of these resources. So they are properly sensitized, and definitely they will not participate in any misappropriation. Our commitment to zero tolerance is key because it is a responsibility on the teachers, the PAYAM education supervisors, the county education department, all the way to the state and us at the national level. It is a responsibility to ensure that this project is implemented in the way that is intended to benefit the eligible learners. There is no any other way around that. So if one choose to do things differently, definitely there are clear procedures and the law will take its course.
On his part, David Musisi, Deputy Team Leader for Essential Services at the British Embassy in Juba, warned that there are strict consequences for misuse, including school disqualification and formal investigations.
We work with the government very closely and we receive regular reporting. So as part of that reporting process, we go and check the truth of it. We speak to teachers, we speak to state anchors, we speak to the beneficiaries. So last week, for example, we visited schools in Juba. We met some of the girls, we met some of the head teachers, we also met the boys who have benefited through what we call capitation grants, which are methods of enhancing construction, building toilets, providing facilities. So we very much work in partnership with the government, and we have conversations, and if there are problems in the programme and if there are issues where we think things are being misappropriated, we have also strict consequences for those. So in those instances, schools can be disqualified and investigations conducted. But our primary objective is to make sure that the girls and children with disabilities that are eligible for these transfers receive them.
Currently, a nationwide validation process is underway to confirm eligible learners for the next round of cash transfers. Validation requires accurate records, including confirmed attendance and Term 1 exam results. Learners in primary 8 and senior 4 must also be registered for their final exams to qualify. Validation is conducted by guest state anchors and PIAM education survivors who verify that the school attendance records in the school attendance monitoring system match actual classroom presence. The GUEST program is a multi-donor initiative supported by the UK, Canada, the European Union, the United States and Sweden. This is iRadio News, and now to the international scene. Here is Barrier.
Good afternoon, Lasuba. Let's have a look at the stories making headlines in the region and beyond. A Ugandan military helicopter with 8 people on board has crashed at the main international airport in Somalia's capital, Mogadishu, an aviation official has told the BBC. The state-run news agency reported that a fire broke out after the helicopter crashed at the Aden Adi International Airport, but it had been quickly contained by the emergency services. Farah Abdullahi, one of the airport staff, told Reuters news agency, "We heard the blast and saw smoke and flames over the helicopter." Elsewhere, jihadist fighters have launched a series of simultaneous attacks on military posts across numerous towns in Mali, the third major assault on the army over the last month. Mali's army said it repelled Tuesday's morning attack, allegedly neutralizing more than 80 militants without saying if there were any other casualties. However, Jama'at Nusrat al-Islam wal-Muslimin, an al-Qaeda-linked group who said it was behind the attacks, said it had taken control of 3 army barracks. And finally, Israel has agreed to the necessary conditions to finalize a 60-day ceasefire in Gaza, US President Donald Trump has said. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said that during the proposed ceasefire, the US will work with all parties to end the war. He did not provide details on what the ceasefire will entail. That's all from the stories making headlines in the region and beyond. And now back to you, Lasuba Memo.
Thank you, Barrier Johnson. And here is Emmanuel Jesavakile with the world of sports.
In football, Trent Alexander-Arnold registered his first assist as a Real Madrid player as Xavi Alonso's side beat Juventus to reach the quarterfinals of the Club World Cup. Arnold, making his 4th successive start at the tournament, endured a quiet first half at the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, but delivered a delicious cross from which Gonzalo Garcia nodded Madrid ahead 9 minutes into the second half, while 10 Juventus players asked to be substituted during the Club World Cup defeat by Real Madrid, says manager Igor Tudor. The last 16 game on Tuesday was played in hot and humid conditions in Miami, with the temperature reaching 30 Celsius and humidity 70%. In basketball, Boston Celtics draft pick Amari Williams was always destined to be a top professional, according to one of his college coaches. Williams, 23, was drafted into the NBA by the Celtics after being chosen as the 46th overall pick. He became the 3rd English-born active player in the NBA, joining Brooklyn Nets forward Tosan and OG of the New York Knicks. In boxing, Belfast featherweight Michael Conlan is set to face Jack on 5th September in Dublin. The 33-year-old returned to winning ways in March with a points win over Asad Asif Khan after a 15-month absence from the ring following defeat by Jordan Grill in December 2023. Leeds fighter Battison has a record of 20 wins, 1 defeat and 1 draw, and is a former British super champion. The 31-year-old's last outing against Danny in December 2024 ended in a draw after an accidental clash of heads saw both fighters cut and the fight stopped in the second round.
Thanks, Emmanuel Joseph Akila. This is iRadio News, and to end this bulletin, here's a recap of the headlines. More than 700 civilians were killed, 149 abducted, and 40 subjected to conflict-related sexual violence in South Sudan between January and March 2025, the highest recorded toll in any 3 months since 2020, according to a new report from the United Nations mission in South Sudan. The South Sudan Revenue Authority has begun zoning Juba City into 10 areas for a new taxpayer registration campaign aimed at boosting revenue collection and improving tax compliance. And South Sudan's former ambassador to the People's Republic of China, John Andriga, is urging the liberators to support the families of their colleagues who died during South Sudan's independence. That's the end of iRadio News. If there is a story or an event you'd like iRadio to cover or report about, please send us a text message at +211 925 287 It's also our WhatsApp number. Follow us on X at iRadio Juba, like our Facebook page iRadio, subscribe to our YouTube channel at iRadio South Sudan. You can also visit our website and listen to us online at www.iradio.org. Stay tuned for the news in Arabic. At 2:30, I am Lasuba.